Not my circus, not my monkey.
You didn't want to do the clap first?
Oh, I didn't think about it.
Ruining my flow here by not doing the clap. That actually peaked. I didn't hear that on mine at all. So yeah, we did the Pokemon Black and White 2 arc. It's kind of a direct continuation of Pokemon Black and White, since the last arc ended on quite a bit of a cliffhanger.
Yeah,
I'll say this is one of the arcs coming, like doing all of these Pokemon arcs that I was looking to actually getting into, because this is I'd never read this arc in my life. I knew about it, but it was like never translated to that point. This is the point where the Pokemon manga was going on and off hiatus. I didn't want to collect the tiny little mini ass volumes, and they weren't releasing the print volumes I was buying at the time. So,
I was gonna say, to be fair, some of these are not that large, even.
well, that's because they're supposed to be part of a bigger volume that includes part of the next arc, but
Yeah.
the English releases have started segregating out the arcs into their own series because the Marvel issue 1 thing. The higher the issue count gets, the less likely people are to buy it. Whereas if
Yeah.
you just make it, oh, this is Pokemon Black and White Volume 1, Pokemon Black and White Volume, or Pokemon Black and White 2 Volume 1,
Yeah.
makes it easier for people to pick it up. So by segregating it out like that, it's a lot easier for them. And it's a little bit more egregious in this arc because there's so few volumes compared to the normal arcs. But
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, you could have just filtered this into an earlier book.
yeah, the reason why they don't, and I understand this now because I'm actively following the release of these volumes now. Um, because these things are not released like on a when they're done basis. These are based on the actual Japanese releases. And like we'll get that first volume released in like tiny chunk. Then we get the full Japanese volume, back to a little one. They do cut the price for these, so I'm like I wasn't paying the same amount for the smaller ones as I was the bigger ones, but still, it's like this is this is kind of funny that you're dressing up what's effectively a mini volume in the coat of a full volume. Like this is the same binding and it looks smaller than the mini volumes because they're taller than the mini volumes.
The difference is $2. This is still too expensive for what it is.
Look, you didn't pay for it. I paid for it.
And no, but it's yeah. Okay, I'm just outraged on Pokemon fans' behalf.
The majority of the market for this are parents buying it for their kids at this point.
Look, half the size, half the price. I know that's not how book printing works, but half the
No, you
size,
should
half
know
the
better than
price.
anyone that's not how book printing works. I
Yeah.
dare you to go find like a book like that large printed for colleges next to a big book like that.
Yeah.
You price it to what the art market is willing to pay, not the price per page.
Yeah.
And the market ain't gonna buy just volume 2 and 3 because they're full size. If they're buying 2 and 3, they're buying 1 and 4 as well.
Yeah, yeah, especially if you're buying them new and not like used on sale.
Hmm.
And if you're buying them used on sale, that's another matter. Because I would buy volume two and nothing else if that was all that was available of a series I wanted, but was out of print. And I have done that before.
See, these aren't out of print because these print the print is surprisingly newer than you would think. We're only like, and this is going to come up more next time. We are now only one arc away from being caught up to the current print, like how what arc is currently finished printing. Like, there's only one more finished arc in printing, and there's many more arcs that have been done on the magazine since then.
Hmm. And how long ago did Pokemon Adventures start publishing?
Well, Pokemon Adventures was like back when Pokemon first came out, so we're getting
Yeah.
these arcs are like pretty concurrently to the games. Black and White 2, Black and White 2 actually has a funny story to it, and I'll actually get into that because that's pretty relevant. But Black and White 2 started while we were in middle school, for reference.
Okay.
That's when the games released, that's when the manga started releasing. Um, so these do take a long while to actually release. We're currently only getting the games that were coming out around our junior year of high school, in terms of print. Like that's the game coming out right now, sophomore, junior year. That's what the manga's printing right now.
Mm.
And they know they were way behind. They were way behind back when I started reading these as well. Like they were only printing Crystal or something like that. I don't think they had started printing Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald yet. Because back then they early started printing Diamond and Pearl as a separate series. That's part of why they did that. And they, in Black and White, because they were printing the original series at one time, Diamond and Pearl at another time, they decided, oh yeah, Black and White. That's coming out right now. That's relevant. We need to print. That's when they started doing the mini volumes. Like these little. I've shown you them before. They're they make that small volume look even worse. Even though I think it's probably not that much more. It depends on the small volume. But
One
it
Piece
creates
would
an
never do this to me.
it create well. One Piece isn't trying to do the weird bend over backward shit this is doing. They've changed that since then. Now it's just the mini volumes and they're printing. Oh no, they're not printing that far ahead still. What I meant by what they've changed is at one point, and we saw this when we were talking about the Emerald arc, these arcs aren't necessarily being written in the order they take place in.
Hmm.
Sometimes they start an arc and then realize, oh, there's a new game. Hey, mangaka, I need you to write three mangas at once. Yeah. So when these are coming out in the magazine, they're coming out when they're ready, which led to Black and White, and this is why it's relevant to Black and White 2. This was the last arc to be handled this way.
Hmm.
Because in Black and White 2, around halfway through, it went on hiatus for about 5 years, to my understanding. Like, we skipped over multiple generations of Pokemon before we finally came back to this arc and finished it up because it was just left incomplete. Because the priority is always going to be on the new Pokemon game that you need to be marketing the new Pokemon for merchandise on.
Yeah, wouldn't Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum have come after Pokemon Black and White?
No, those games released way before Black and White.
Oh, I'm thinking of the anime series
No,
on
even the anime was
TV.
before Pokemon Black and White. It actually it feeds into Black and White, kind of. There's just a little bit of a soft reboot thing going on with Black and White.
Why the fuck did I think Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum came after?
I don't know because you're not a Pokemon fan. Whereas Down Pro and Platinum were the games I started in Black and White was my first. Oh, there's a new Pokemon generation coming.
Huh. You know what? I'm gonna blame this on Disney XD's Saturday morning reruns.
Because if you pay attention towards the end of the Diamond and Pearl anime, Giovanni to Team Rocket's like, I need you guys to go look into something else, something new. And then
Yeah.
they start kind of feeding into that in Black and White.
Yeah. Okay.
Before gosh, it's we're getting into a
No.
tangent here, and I do
No.
want to talk about the arc itself. But the Black and White anime
Go.
was notoriously gutted because there was the Fukushima nuclear disaster and earthquake happened around that time, and they decided having Team Plasma coming in and causing a very similar looking disaster as their introduction
It's
was
probably
probably not
not.
great. But they also couldn't spend the writing time to rewrite the season for that to not include that part. So they cut them out of the series and just relegated them to an arc in a like in a filler in a massive filler series afterward.
Good Lord.
Yeah,
When your timing accidentally coincides with that of the movement of tectonic plates on the Earth in a catastrophic way.
that's fine. In the original Pokemon series, there was an episode that's only aired like twice that got originally in syndication for the Pokemon anime. Like this is the Gen 1, the stuff you like the I wanna be the very best, like
That's,
no one ever
yeah.
was. There was an episode where a giant tentacruel destroys a building that would have aired not long after 9/11. That was also cut from syndication. That one did come back though. I remember watching that one in English because they in reruns of Pokemon they would air that episode still.
Yeah, well, because I feel like in that case, in the immediate aftermath, obviously, it's like tactless, right? But after a certain amount of time, given that you probably don't know exactly when it released, Like, to be honest, most casual fans are gonna forget, oh, this came out in 2001 or something, you know? Um,
But that's Pokemon Gen 1 anime has got that in spades, though. There's a lot of episodes that just never aired in the West for one reason or another. You've probably heard of at least one or two of them.
I actually probably haven't, to be honest.
Well, there's Electric Soldier Porygon. That's the infamous one that gave everyone seizures.
Never heard of that.
Really? You know how anime always has, like, whenever they're doing, when you're watching like the Crunchyroll version, whenever a big, giant, flashy fight is coming on screen, they always kind of dim the coloring a bit.
I'm gonna be honest, I did not know that.
You've never caught that?
Well, Knick-Knack, keep in mind, anything with big flashy fights that I watch, I probably pirated off Crunchyroll.
Well, whenever there's a big flashy fight on Japanese television, there's a lot of colors, a lot of flashing lights. They never air put the like there's a the Blu-ray version tends to remove that filter, but the aired version, which is what goes on Crunchyroll, always throws a filter over it because they're worried about kids or even adults getting seizures while watching it. This is because of an incident in Pokemon where Porygon flashed many bright colors and it caused some Japanese kids to have seizures and it caused a big giant controversy that put the Pokemon on anime on hiatus for about like half a year or so.
Yeah, no, I think probably the only anime that I've watched recently enough to have those kind of like big bright fights on Crunchyroll will probably be Boku no Hero when I catch up to it.
There's also an anime episode that was not aired in the West where one guy holds a gun to Ash's head, and they're like, "No, no, no, we're not showing this to American kids."
Which is wild because that wouldn't be all that weird for
It
us.
was for kids.
And
Do you remember the Yu-Gi-Oh?
I remember the One Piece
Or
punch
yeah,
glove gun thing.
yeah. This
Yeah.
is for kids. This is for kids. We're talking here. And then there's another episode that was censored. This is the funniest one that was censored because it was one of those. You know how Jesse and James always do their cross-dressing?
Yeah.
It was one of those episodes where they cross-dress, but it was a swimsuit competition. So James decides he needs to win this. So he has giant inflatable breasts that at one point he pumps to comical size until they pop.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. American cartoons have done way worse. Like I've seen Scooby and Shaggy do that on an episode of Scooby Doo. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But yeah, those are some of the wild episode removals from Western syndication and Japanese syndication in one case.
Uh,
But yeah, but we need to actually talk about the manga that we read. Uh,
okay.
okay. So here's a question. I obviously split this arc off from the original Black and White. Some commenters at one was wondering how I was going to handle that. How do you feel about me splitting this arc from the original Black and White?
Uh, I think it's fine that you did. I think it's distinct enough. I think if you'd not split it off, I'd have been quite confused why we had such a gap in the time scale inside the arc, you know?
It's like a sudden shift in main characters altogether.
Yeah, and I would have been like, "Ooh, mid-arc? That doesn't feel right."
We've done something kind of similar before with Gold, Silver, Crystal, where like halfway through you shift main character for about half that arc.
Yeah, but it wasn't so jarring in Gold, Silver, Crystal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my goodness, hi Jack Jack.
He's tired.
I can see him in your bedroom just like wagging his little tail and walking around.
There he
Oh,
goes.
hi
There goes the boy. I
buddy.
think he's just
Here
trying to find somewhere
comes
comfy to lie down. No, he's trying to
the
get my attention.
boy.
He wants me to cuddle with him. Hi, pup.
Well, pick up the dog.
No. Pet him.
I guess you don't want to encourage what because mine is also here waiting for me.
I let him up sometimes when he's invited. When he's not invited, though, I don't want him like hopping up
No,
here in the middle of the workday.
stop it, Peachy. Stop it.
So, okay, I'll say this. I think in an effort to make these Pokemon protagonists stand out a little bit more from their previous, like from the original Black and White protagonists. They really tried to give them very unique backstories for what you normally get from the Pokemon manga. Not like normally the backstory just amounts to their motivation.
Hmm.
This time they're like, oh no, our male lead is Blake is a for or is currently an international policeman and a high-ranking one at that, a young child prodigy. And the other one was it Whitley? Sorry, I'm not used to the names not just being in
Yeah.
the colors and the name. Uh,
Yeah.
Whitley is a former Team Plasma grunt that had to flee and go into hiding after N's defeat in Black and White. And I don't know how I have thoughts on it. How are you feeling about that?
It felt like I was reading a weird knockoff of Detective Conan. I didn't like this arc.
I'm conflicted on it. There are things I think this arc did decently or did well even, but I think a lot of this arc feels undercooked. Part of it is
I
probably the length, but like ideas that they introduce, they just never can actually flesh out other than outside of their base appearances. That's my thought on the Blake and Whitley backstory thing. Like, it's cool we have an international policeman. They've been a thing in the Pokemon series for a while. Like Looker, you've seen in previous arcs.
hmm
And the Team Plasma angle is an interesting angle to take the female protagonist, but like this is a really, really short arc. These characters maybe have a couple scenes that are actually consequential because of those facts, but for
yeah.
the most part, it feels like we just don't get a lot for these characters to do with their backstories. And
Look, if you're gonna try to make this some sort of like convoluted, somewhat romance between a detective and a girl who used to be on the bad guy's side, I
where was I at? 'Cause I think I was saying something, wasn't I?
I think I was making a comparison. Um, yeah, it's if you're gonna try to sell me on a romantic connection between a former member of Team Platinum and this like world-renowned detective, and then you're gonna spend a significant portion of book two with the main conflict being him trying to figure out if she's a spy, I need you to take more than 3.5 books to do it.
I needed a lot more of a game of cat and mouse.
Yeah,
Or
because
as I,
it
go
just
ahead.
feels trivial. It feels like they threw it in because it's something that needs to be done in that type of story, where like the detective doubts the person who turned on their old organization and that's part of the romance is like the doubt and then like figuring it out, but that's a longer payoff than they gave time for, especially with everything else going on. Like that's the sort of payoff that you dedicate like an entire arc to just the interaction between the two of them through the course of solving a case, not catastrophic world-ending shit.
Yeah, I think I've been critical a lot of these shorter arcs in this series, but I can give them some benefit of the doubt, or not benefit of the doubt here, but like I can give them some props over this arc because this arc, I think the problem is they spend a lot of time setting up these backstories, a lot of time like this is where they're at, these are what the characters, this is like their group of people around them, and like what's going on with them, which is fine if we're going to be going for much longer than we did,
Hmm.
but we didn't. And in fact, like maybe like around 3/4 of the way into the series, we get most of the old cast back too.
Hmm.
It's we needed a lot, arguably a lot less time dedicated to that setup and a lot more time dedicated to making the set pieces a little bit more meaningful or more apparent, a more apparently meaningful. Like why is the turning point of this series a random excursion into the sewers? That was like a like would have been a single chapter in like the first couple arcs that we've read for Pokemon.
Uh, Knick-Knack, I've learned not to question random trips into the sewers. Too much time in The Witcher. I have learned to just accept the sewers as a main part of every and any story that they occur in.
So like I just feel like this arc, once you get past the concept, basically after you get past the setup, it just really trips over itself. Um,
It reads like a fan fiction sequel to Black and White,
a
where
little
somebody
bit.
was trying to put in their OCs and develop their OCs like backstory and love story, but still needed to connect it back to Black and White. That's what it reads like. And their OCs are Blake and Whitney.
Not Whitney, Whitley. Look, these names are significantly better than they were in Japanese, and the Japanese names, maybe they were it sounded better because it would have been done in Japanese, or maybe they Englished it and hoped us English audiences would never notice. These characters were named Lack 2 and Wit 2.
It is Whitney. Whitley. Oh, I hate that. Oh, I hate that.
So yeah. There were a couple things I did like about this arc. So in some ways more in the previous arc. I felt like N and Getsus, characters from the previous arc.
Yeah.
Well, I can't blame him too much. This is actually the point of the game was N and Getsis's return and what was like what happened afterward to them. But I felt like they had slightly stronger writing than in the previous arc. Getsis kind of had his game problem in the previous arc where he was just the heel turn villain, and N had a problem in the previous arc where they really cut out most of his game appearances, so his character felt pretty surface level. I feel like the relationship between them was a lot more fleshed out this time, like right up to that scene where Getsus is like just trying to like just to make N feel like shit, let himself die.
I have a different opinion on that. I think it only feels fleshed out because we had the previous arc to rely on to create the characters for us and present like the characters as they were, so they don't stand on their own in this arc.
I mean, that's kind of true. I get what you're saying there, but I could say the exact same thing about things like Giovanni and Silver's arc in Fire Red and Leaf Green, for example. It's like I'm gonna give it points where it can as a sequel arc. We've had sequel arcs before. It's just I don't feel like the original elements did a lot for this arc. Whereas I can remember the character of Yellow at least, and I genuinely care about that character. Or um, the Fire and Leaf Green didn't add us any new characters. The only arc I probably dislike as much as this one in terms of the original elements that it's introduced is Emerald. I did not care for Emerald as a character. But I think that the sequel elements were the parts that work best. Like when you actually bring back the original black and white characters, and you act like you get into
Yeah,
N
but
and Getsus.
if the elements that make it a sequel and not a unique story are what makes it good, then it's not a good standalone story.
I'm not saying it's a good standalone story. I'm trying to give the art praises where I can give it because it's not good
Okay.
overall.
Okay.
Let me make my let me add like let me add a little sugar to this pile of shit, Seki.
I don't think that.
You're
Okay.
allowed to compliment something that's overall bad if it had good elements. Those parts were done well, and I have a feeling they were done well because it was the only way to get people to care about this arc after what, how long of a hiatus it had?
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
Because like there's a very clear moment where these characters start getting reintroduced, and they stop move away from a lot of the original elements after that sewer part. After that sewer part, and that's probably where they picked up on the hiatus. That's where they probably came back and like, okay, wait a minute, we ended Black and White on a cliffhanger, and Black and White 2 is now sitting incomplete with characters that have not been given time to flesh out. We don't have time to flesh them out. Let's just bring in the original cast and make them the forefront of the rest of the story. I I'm very disappointed in this arc because this is one of my favorite Pokemon games that this is adapting. But I just feel like this arc did not do enough on its own legs. Sorry, my rant's over. If you have anything else you want to say, go ahead. I realize I had to cut you off there, but
I don't have much else to say. It's, you know what? I do have something to say. It's not completely Pokemon by the numbers. Color it in. Kudos for that.
well,
It's
a lot of our
yeah.
middle arcs have been have avoided that problem. I
Yeah.
think where I'm probably the most mad though is a lot of those middle arcs don't have a Pokemon game to lean on because they're just like, oh, there was a third enhanced version. Let's try to turn the like 5 hours of additional content in those versions into a full arc. This
Hmm.
arc did have its own unique story and adventure to lean on that it kind of tries to, but it doesn't give the care it needs to make it work.
That's fair. I think it needed to be longer.
Yeah,
A fair bit longer. Probably at least another 2 volumes.
I can kind of agree on that one. I think it probably could have benefited at least a volume and a half. Like round us out so we only have one tiny ass
No,
volume.
no, a volume and a half would make it perfectly even, so we didn't have any half-size volumes because we end on a half volume.
Yeah, one volume, half volume. There's still that tiny ass volume at the start.
No, this one's almost full-sized.
Oh, never
Yeah,
mind then. Yeah, would have been
yeah,
would have rounded it out.
would have rounded it out.
Okay, you know, I do have one more comment on this series. You can tell how long the hiatus was because like this series, this is this like when you get into the paperback versions, they actually add elements to the ending to feed it into the next arc as like the arc like the current ongoing arc
Hmm.
so that they tie into each other. That's something they've been doing at least since Black and White because Black and White had elements that were added to tie into Black and White too
Yeah.
for its finale. Um, and none of the added elements to Black and White 2 tie into the next arc X and Y. Instead, they tie into not the arc after X and Y, the arc after that. That's not even
Why?
started printing its full volume releases. We've only had the mini volumes come out for Sun and Moon.
Why? Why? Oh my goodness. This is a
Yeah.
mess.
A bit, just a
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah, it is. It is. Well, with that, I take it it's actually going to be a bit before we get back to Pokemon.
Now we have one more arc. We can get back to that, and then it's gonna be a bit.
You sure you don't want to draw out that last arc for a little bit longer?
No, because the arc after that, I'm 60% confident we'll get by the halfway point of 2026. The arc after that,
60%.
though,
60% is not a high number on a scale.
look, that volume has been postponed and held back from publication for like it's been on like going getting scheduled and then pushed back, scheduled and pushed back for like a year now, year and a half.
You know what series we haven't returned to that's doing that same thing for me?
Hmm.
Do you remember Stepmother's Marchin' and how much we liked it?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Volume 6 has been consistently pushed back for the last year and a half every single time its release date comes up.
In fairness, I'm gonna give it to this to the author. Like I get why it's taking long because they do add those elements and they touch up the art from the publication release um for the final versions. And this mangaka is getting old, to my understanding. They're actually
Mm.
talking about the current arc for the manga being the final. I've seen speculation on that at least,
Ah,
but we're not sure. We don't know for sure yet.
fair.
So yeah, but do you know what's next?
I do, but it's not gonna be coming out in next in the order.
Next for the viewers.
Yes, actually.
Come on, we basically turned this into an outro. You ruined it. You're ruining it.
I'm sorry, you did this to me before. You've done this to me before, where I've been like, I don't know what's next, and you go, I do.
I wish 50 Alien Isolation streams on you, Seki.
Oh,
50.
get fucked.